Hey guys, so last time I finished up the animation uh, for the look at, um, and um, and that went well, and I haven't run into any issues with that. So this time, okay, so this time, what I'm focused on is just trying to. I said get rid of last time, but I guess all I can do is address the any issue. Um, it is very interesting, but and it's extremely frustrating for like professional developers that have to kind of get through the whole PR process and all the linting and all the static code analysis that has to be done. Um, but so what I so what I have here is my sort of traditional countdown. Like as I finish up features, I like to try to create a countdown in an eclipse. And I don't think the eclipse is very relevant to the look at. Like the eclipse is more about how other things are moving based on you looking in a single place as opposed to that. But here's my countdown. My one, two, three, woo, um, and the way that and it's all exclusively focused on the look at changing. Um, so we rescued a little kitten a couple weeks ago, and it's getting kind of big. Um, but she's probably ready to get adopted out. My son wanted to adopt it. This is the kitten of a feral colony. I think it might be deaf. It was abandoned by its mother, and they don't usually abandon them, but it was left in our backyard. And then we went back there, it was screaming, so we picked it up and sort of raised it, and now it's probably going to go to um, my son's house in the next couple days. But he's buying a new house, so they're not quite ready to take on a new pet at the moment. But anyways, with that, that's beside the point. The so anyways, so what we have here is basically three sets of meshes, right? And so if I go to meshes, you can see. Let me show this in the raw data view. I'm going to move that over there. So we have negative 5, 5, so this is 1, and then we have 2A and 2B, and that's, so we're looking at 1, now we're looking at the 2, and then we're looking at the 3. And so they're like in different places. The 1 is up at 5 on Y, left to 5, and Z of 2. And so, and like the last 3 is at X of 7, so all the way to the right, and then Y of 5, and then a Z towards us of 2. So it just sort of pans down across that the animation. So if you look over at the animation and you look at what's happening on Y, it's well, let's start at X. It starts at like -5. Oh, I forgot to hit play. How far in are we? We are 320. Okay, so it starts off at -5 and ends at 5. So the camera is going from -5 all the way over to 5. And then on the Y, I believe it starts at 10 and then scrolls down to -10. So it's like, and then on the Z axis, it's looking closer to us. So it starts off -2, which is farther away, and then it looks closer. So it's just like you're taking a camera and just going down, which I think is kind of cool because it's like almost like you're going around a clock in 3 dimensions at this point, um, which is really a neat effect. Um, probably be a lot cooler with like lighting and stuff like that, but you know, that's not really what I was about. So, anyways, so we're at 411. Um, so what I want to talk about is this. Okay, so I have these any's, right? I had to create them as any's, and then we got, if I don't create it as an any, we get a very interesting error. Um, so, if I get rid of this, then we see like this error. It says uh, last look at X doesn't um, exist on the camera on one of these interfaces, right? It doesn't tell us which one it's upset about, but it just says so it exists on the perspective camera and on the orthographic, but it doesn't exist on the mesh or the light. And so because of that, um, it breaks. But what we can do is we can say, hey, if the look at is in the item, so this is the part that um, I had my code a little bit different. I said if item dot look at, then make it a perspective or an orthographic. Otherwise, make it a mesh or an light interface. So basically, if something comes, if a possible combination comes through that can't be done down here, because like this is very difficult. It's really like this is so difficult to be able to mentally understand that hey, I have a three property name and a sub property name, and is it possible to get something in here based on what we're pulling in up here for this to break? And so if it would break if we added something and we were trying to get at some attribute, it would break. If that doesn't exist, it would catch that for us. So that's like invaluable. But it's kind of a pain, and this is doing nothing. It is literally doing nothing from an actual code perspective. And I bet you, but I don't think that's that big of a deal because like some people might argue, oh, this is going to slow down this is going to be a performance hit. But I'm 99% sure that this would be like during the compilation process would be removed. Like this there if okay, so let me take a step back. So to get all this to work and still have strong typing, you kind of need to do something along these lines. But and that will help the developer while they're coding to catch if something in here just isn't going to work. If something in this set of code doesn't line up, it'll get caught, which is like really, really valuable. The problem is that most linters would reject this code. It would say, hey, you're just trying to do the same thing. All you're doing is assigning item to item. Nothing happens. And it's true. And if you really want some like validation, like if you ever want to see what your TypeScript is doing, you can go to this thing called the TypeScript playground, and you can paste it in there. And over here, you'll see the actual code that's happening. And as you can see, like all it literally does is assign it to itself. So couple things. One is even if this code got through, which I do not think, I think once you compiled it, it would be gone. And then additionally, there is optimization inside the browser that it would see this code one time and then it would optimize this code away, even if it did manage to get to the browser. So you're talking about like one time in, let's say if you're looking at this page for 30 seconds in like 6,000 updates, one time would be slowed down. And even if it is slowed down, and even if it was every time, literally all of this stuff is in memory. So it's not like there's no calculations happening. Like literally all you're saying is that, hey, that address is that address. That's literally all you're saying. So if I have to pick a poison, my poison would be to have the strong typing protection and in all likelihood not even have a performance hit, because this would probably be optimized during the transpilation process. I would rather have that. But anyways, so I did that all throughout this code. I think it's a good thing. I think that, let's see. I think it is definitely less than ideal to have sort of this kind of code. But I think the alternative to these sorts of this code is like a big long if then statement with tons and tons of different things in there, which I think is problematic for other reasons. I think there's a point where you just have to choose between multiple, like there's no great answer. There's just a bunch of bad ones and you're just trying to pick the best of the bad answers. Anyways, that's just my personal opinion on that. I did want to take a moment just to sort of go over that, because usually when you're working you would normally only run into this problem in an enterprise situation. In a non-enterprise situation, who cares? You just do whatever you do to get it to work. And if it's just pure JavaScript, then you would never even see these issues. Um, but you normally run into these sort of catch-22 situations in enterprise situations, but it's not this clear. Normally, it's extraordinarily abstracted, and there's just tons of different moving parts, and it's just not as obvious. It's just like it's not super obvious even in this code, but it's so much more obvious than other times I've run into this issue. Anyways, I'm a little bit over 10 minutes, so I'm going to try I'll call it here. I think the next thing I want to do is start working on the scene. If I remember properly, if I'm remembering correctly, the scene is just an object, and I need to convert that into an array, and that'll be the first thing I do. Um, It'll probably be a nice long slog to get through this, and then we're definitely going to run into some funny issues like this because I will be updating the color so that you can animate the background color as time goes by. And we've already found that like the TypeScript gets very finicky when you update something that the other pieces don't have. So, and then what's really interesting about that is, so I'm probably gonna have to write some exception code for that, and then and I'll probably have to do it for mesh, for lights, and for camera, and then mesh. Eventually, I will want to update that, probably the colors in that, and so then I'll have to be disciplined enough and remember to then remove the exceptions for mesh, and then light is the same way, and so I'll have to remove the exceptions for light, and then camera doesn't have colors, so I'll never remove the exceptions for camera. But anyways, yeah, that's next, is to work on scene animation, and that's about it. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.